Hello again. Bambaji here with another gate exploration. The sun continues its journey around the wheel, and now we are moving into gate 27. So the last time we looked at the gate that had gate 50 as its grounding force. This is gate 27 now, and it's the gate at the other end of the channel. It's called the gate of caring, and in the I Ching, it's called the gate of nourishment. This is a gate in the sacral center, so straight away we know that there's a real power behind it. It's a power that expresses as the drive to nourish, but also the drive to be nourished. This is where values and the expression of caring come together as preservation. That's the name of the channel that runs between the 27 and the 50, the sacral and the splenic center. And it carries the energy of preserving life and protecting it. So we find here the qualities of compassion, of caring for the weak or the sick or the helpless. Without nourishment and caring, not much survives really, particularly a young human who is so vulnerable for so many years. And this channel between the 27 and the 50 is all about bringing our young up to be well nourished and to have the values that they need that will take them safely into the future and the tribe, because this is tribal. 27 is the genetic strategy for caring. You know, a genetic strategy, it's not an intellectual strategy. It's in our very genes that we care for each other, and especially our young and our old as well, caring about those who really need it. You know, these things can also help to keep us healthy as we share. It's that sort of what goes around comes around thing. And it's such an important point, really, that caring is about healthy caring. No, it's not about being sick or making yourself sick as you care for others. It's supposed to be really mutually, tribally supportive and beneficial. I kind of think of this gate as being the oxygen mask gate, you know, the one in the plane where you're told to put your own mask on before you help anyone else with theirs. Because what help can you be to anybody else if you pass out before you can reach them? You know, what help can you give others if you're burning yourself out trying to nurture them because you forget to nurture yourself in the process? I cared for my mother for the last 12 years of her life, you know, and I learned the hard way, very hard way, that it is essential to put myself first because I was putting her first. You know, it seemed like the right thing to do. She was in her 90s. She was pretty immobile. She had a little bit of dementia. She wasn't really able to take care of herself. Well, she wasn't at all. And I was getting a carer's allowance, so that meant that I had to care, didn't it? I had to do everything that I possibly could. And when you look at it through the lens of human design, you can see it's such conditioned nonsense, but it's such powerful conditioning at the same time. And so I burned out. I started getting panic attacks. And yet I pushed myself through those and I carried on caring. And I would say the quality of my caring declined somewhat because I was exhausted and I'm a projector. So there was definitely some bitterness and resentment that started leaking through. I don't know how much my mother really noticed. But anyway, she ended up in a home because I just couldn't cope with her anymore. I couldn't cope with looking after her. And that really did, for a few years, it really did put our relationship under some pressure. And all because I hadn't learned to put myself first. I hadn't learned that that is not selfish. Luckily, we did mend our relationship before she died. I'm very happy to say we ended up with quite a good relationship in the end, but it was touch and go for a little while. So there's a question my husband asks me from time to time. He used to say it a lot when we first met. You know, he would say, "Who is the most important person in your life?" And when I began to witness what was happening with my mum, and I could see that he was witnessing it too, it was something that Well, it was obvious that I wasn't putting myself first. But he used to ask me this question, and it was almost impossible for me to say, me, I'm the most important person in my life. And actually, I think to begin with, it used to put me into a bit of a panic attack, just even contemplating that maybe I was important. Almost physically painful, which is a strange thing, I guess. It's crazy, really. But how many of us are really brought up to put ourselves first? It would have been judged in my family, certainly, as being incredibly selfish. It was one of the things that was leveled at us whenever we did anything for ourselves. Oh, you're so selfish. My parents were both born into a time when particularly women were focused on taking care of the family. Then that could be in a family that extended both ways. You might have grandparents living in this room while your parents were still giving birth down in this room. So you had all ends of the generational gap there. Certainly what happened in our home. Our mothers, or my mother, she took care of the house. She took care of the children. She had a job, part-time job as well. And so this was the lesson that I learned growing up, just through witnessing what was going on, is that you just keep giving, you just keep giving, and then you give a little bit more. And I know that this is an experience I share with thousands of others, people that I've spoken to, men and women both. It's the conditioning our society gave to us. And in a way, it's a conditioning that is a gift, because it's given us something that we really have to work through. We have to find our own level of importance within that structure. So this then is a gate within individuality. The grounding energy is in gate 28. And 28 is the gate of the game player. And it's in the splenic center, a center that houses our deepest fears, one of them being the fear of death, or dying before finding what in life is worth living for. And this is where life itself is both the challenge and also the game. So this gate, as I say, it's an individuality. And the message we get is that taking risks, well, it's something that individuals can do when you've got this gate. You take risks and you face consequences. This is part of the individual process, something that the individual is equipped to deal with. It's part of the process that leads to knowing in the now, because this gate eventually is part of a stream that ends up in the 20th gate, which is the gate of the now. And as I said, gate 28 is actually really looking for something that is worthwhile, something that gives life meaning. The fear of death is really the fear of dying without finding that meaning in life. This gate is often found in people who take what seem to be insane risks. People who jump out of helicopters in order to ski down a mountain, or who dive off cliffs into rock-strewn waters. This is the game they're playing, this game of life and death. Finding things that make them feel truly alive in the moment. So what is the connection between this gate of the game player and the gate of caring? Perhaps it's finding something that really gives meaning to your life, something that is individual to you. This is what nourishes you. This is what enables you then to pass it forward. Maybe racing over the sands on a purebred Mustang, or in a purebred Mustang would be my preference, if you prefer your horsepower to have wheels rather than hooves. I'm just doing this for the pure thrill of it, because you love it. Knowing that you would fight to have this experience, it can be truly, truly exhilarating. It can open your heart. It can transform the relationships that you have with others. There may be consequences, but if you're entering into your games correctly, then you will be able to face them. You will be equipped for it, and they will be correct for you. Possibly also this gate is showing us that what is really of value is finding it within ourselves to be the most important person in our own life. Or maybe it's saying that what is truly giving life value is caring for others, or nourishing others, or allowing them to nourish us. Because very often you'll find people who give and give and give, but when it's turned around the other way, they're like, no, no, I'm fine, no. And they just can't accept that caring coming back. And yet when you really are caring from that heart-centered place, not because it's a duty, but because it's your joy to do it, then you know how it feels. And so then maybe we can open ourselves to allowing others to really have that joy and to, I don't know, to share that with us by allowing them to care for us too. Everything works both ways. It's that binary that we live in. It's part of the yin and the yang and the yes and the yat. Oh, I almost got through the whole thing without blah, 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 blah. The yes and the yat. Okay, so I'm going to leave it there before I say something that might be really silly. And I will say thank you for watching another gate with me. Thank you for continuing on this exploration. And I will leave you with this question for you to contemplate. Who is the most important person in your life?